And welcome back to Sandown. It's only a few moments away from the start of the third round of the Australian Touring Car Championship for the Castrol Challenge. And with me on my left-hand side, 38-year-old New Zealander, Aucklander, in fact, Neil Lowe, having your first drive in the 05 Commodore. I guess for you it's a fairly tense moment.
Yes, it is. We're very happy with the way the car is going, though, and hopefully this track will be more suited to the V8s than to the turbos.
You have qualified to the 10th with your teammate John Harvey. Now, what are the team orders?
There are no team orders now.
Just go for it.
Absolutely.
Last year we saw you on many occasions driving with Kent Bagent in the BMW. How have you adjusted to the Holden?
There's certainly a different motor car, a lot heavier, but a very nice car.
Wish you the very best of luck, and I'm sure many of our Kiwi friends do as well. Thanks, Neil.
Thank you, Neil.
Also from New Zealand, and right across the other side of the grid, if we can get over there, is the man who stunned the motorcycle public a couple of years ago by finishing second in the World 500cc Road Racing Championships. He's now added two wheels to the act. New Zealander Graham Crosby, car number 2, this time in the Cis time entry. You did some amazing things for us down at Symmons Plains and gave Dick Johnson some curry. Can we expect that again?
Well, hopefully I'll go a little bit better than Symmons and try and go for at least a third with these hairdryer things in front. I think, you know, first or second might be a little bit difficult.
You told me, I think on Saturday, that you had rather a strange sort of a problem with your car after Symmons Plains. You found something just a bit unusual. Would you like to tell us all?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, that's lucky for you. I found a crack in one of the conrods about 1.5 inches long. And I guess that would be about a $5,000 engine job at least, even if we have got Larry Perkins doing them. You know, it's a bit of a problem there, but we're okay now. We've got a brand new engine, heaps of horsepower, and hopefully we'll win it up the straights.
Are you enjoying your four-wheel encounter?
Oh, hell yeah, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. You know, like I haven't got a stereo in here, but apart from that, I can't fault it, it's good.
And can we see you for the remainder of the Touring Car Championship?
I'll tell you, I'm probably Monday or Tuesday.
We'll keep our fingers crossed. It's great to have you with us in the Touring Car Championship so far. Very best of luck today.
Thank you.
We can't let this field go without talking to Queensland's favourite, Dick Johnson. And Dick, back on the third row of the grid, but yesterday in the discretionary practice you told me you got down to a 52-second lap. Now if you can do that sort of thing in the race, we might see number 17 up there again.
Well, actually I think if the tyres hang in, I'm sure the car will, so you know, we'll try and keep ourselves together and keep complacent enough to be able to stay with the leaders. So I think the turbo cars will buzz off for a while, and hopefully all the tyre situation will bring everyone back to tours, but you know, our car's not as quick in a straight line as some of these, but that's something we've got to put up with for the rest of the year.
But the thing about your car, Dick, is the fact that it stops and handles so well. And this circuit now, with the extra length in the circuit by about, I think, what, 0.7 of a kilometre, is very twisty and very hard on a car. And your thing is so nimble, I would suggest that you've got a reasonable show.
Yeah, as long as, you know, not too many of the Commodores behind us get to me before the first corner or up the back straight the first time, we should be able to stay in touch. But, you know, that's the big risk you run because it's very difficult to pass people.
Something that a lot of people certainly ask me, and I'll ask you the question, how do you cope with the race cam in the car?
Well, it's not really a problem. I've been doing it for quite some time now, and I think you just put a load of rubbish in your head and...
like we do.
Before the start of an event, it all sort of dribbles out as you're driving around. You know?
Well, we certainly enjoy it. We hope you do very well this afternoon. Thanks, Dick Johnson. So the field now just about ready to get underway. I think they're still clearing a few of the problems up there, but I'll take you back now to Mike Raymond.
Thank you, Neil Crompton. And a good-looking field we have indeed for the third round of the Australian Touring Car Championship. The Castrol Challenge will give you the grid, and we'll study the field when we return from Sandown.
At Sandown for the third round of the 1986 Australian Touring Car Championship. Cars on the first of two warm-up laps, for one warm-up lap rather, for this event. Let's check the starting grid. Pole position for today's race goes to George Fury in car number 30. Alongside him on the front row in the Volvo, Robbie Francevic, car number 10. Second row, the two Mobile Dealer Team Commodores. Car 3, Johnny Harvey. Alongside him in 05 is Neil Lowe, stepping in for the boss, who's overseas campaigning in Europe, Peter Brock. Third row of the grid, car 2, Graham Crosby in another Commodore. Alongside him in 17, Dick Johnson in the familiar green Ford Mustang. Fourth row of the grid, the defending touring car champion, car number 1, Jim Richards in the BMW. Then car 4, Peter McLeod, who's qualified his new Commodore very well indeed. Fifth row of the grid is Fury's teammate in the second of the Nissan Turbo Skylines, car 15, Glenn Seaton. Alongside him, car 25, the second of the BMWs. This is the 325, driven by Tony Longhurst. And on the sixth row of the grid, Gary Rogers, car 34 in a BMW, the Bob Jane T-Mart's entry. And also car 75, Colin Bond in the Ignis Alfa Romeo GTV6. They're the top 12 qualifiers, and completing the field we've got car 77, Peter Williamson in a Toyota Supra. Also car 24, Gerald Kay, a Commodore. 20, Jim Keogh in a BMW. 28, Laurie Nelson, a Ford Mustang. 21, Graham Lusty in a Commodore. 36, Murray Carter in a Nissan Skyline. Good to see Murray back. Car 18, Ray Ellis in a Commodore, and rounding out the field, car 78, Brian Sampson in a Mitsubishi Starion.
And here is the man who today will be going for his hat trick. Robbie Francevic of New Zealand in the Valvoline Volvo dealer team Turbo. New paint job. Of course, it's turned out the same as the factory Nordica cars in Europe. But the man he has to beat off the front row today is, of course, George Fury, the man who absolutely blitzed them in qualifying yesterday, and the recipient of the Bob Jane T-Mart's $1,000 pole prize. You've heard Neil Lowe speaking a while ago to Neil Crompton. And, of course, he is confident that they have perhaps the combination to make life a little tougher for the Turbo boys here at Sandown. A good crowd has turned out at Sandown for the third round of the touring car title. Promises to be a great race. The battle up front will certainly be interesting between the two Turbo cars for maybe the first 10 laps or so. Glenn Seaton running the second Peter Jackson Nissan Skyline here today. And there is a section of the big crowd in the grandstand as the field comes back to line up prior to the start. 21 laps, the distance. And George Fury now making his way up to share the front row with Robbie Francevic. The two mobile Commodores, Neil Lowe in 05 and John Harvey in number 3, will share the second row, then Graham Crosby and Dick Johnson the third row. Peter McLeod is here. Actually, white Commodores seem to be in vogue at the moment following Alan Grice's charge after the European touring car title. Graham Crosby and Peter McLeod both turning up today in basically plain white Commodores. Well turned out though, just the same. Jim Richards, the Australian touring car champion from 1985, feeling the pinch just a little bit at the moment against the cars. 30 seconds away from the start. And the field is set. 10 seconds away from the Castrol Challenge, round 3 of the Australian Touring Car Championship, and they're racing. Crosby, a beautiful start.
Fury's
watched it at the start, and Neil Lowe moves up smartly. Now Fury picks the pace up on the inside as they go down to the left-hander, and McLeod also making a brilliant start here on the outside. Let's make sure they all get through the turn, and none of them wind up in the sand trap as they go.
Somebody does. Spin out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a half dozen cars more.
One of the dealer team cars, there's one of the Nissan Skylines. I think Graham Crosby was involved in that as well. And I think Crosby at present is stone motherless last.
There's George Fury, car number 15.
No, that's the Glenn Seaton car.
Sorry, Glenn Seaton car going up the back straight though. And here they come.
Francevic in front. Harvey.
And the crowd erupting here in the grandstand.
As Neil Lowe.
A Commodore come up on the outside to try and muscle Robbie Francevic for the lead.
So
and
Neil
he will
Lowe,
take
then
it.
Francevic, then George Fury in third position. I saw Colin Bond in strife down there as well. We wonder where he is. Francevic comes back in car number 10. Well, what a carve up in the opening lap.
And here's Fury going down the inside of the dealer team car as they come out of the turn, and he's got the Commodore very much sideways. Francevic is your race leader in car number 10.
He's just biffed into the side of Neil Lowe's car. I think he may have pushed the guard onto the right rear tyre.
Just checking some of the survivors just in behind the leading division. McLeod is there. Gary Rogers is there. Peter Williamson is there. Colin Bond, yeah, he's there as well.
Peter McLeod fourth in car number 4. We saw a glimpse of him there in the background in the plain white car.
As they come down for the completion of their first lap, you'll hear the crowd erupt at Sandown. Robbie Francevic, car number 10, leads from Neil Lowe in 05. Still with some problems there with that car. George Fury in the Nissan Skyline is the next one to come through, and then Peter McLeod. Wait for the reaction as the Commodore comes up to challenge for the completion of the first lap here at Sandown. And the Super Kiwi, Robbie Francevic, and the Valvoline Turbo Volvo, he leads it.
Standing lap time 2 minutes .34, and Neil Lowe's right-hand rear tyre continues to smoke with that guard pushed down on it. Jim Richards is a long way back in the field, probably in around about 20th position.
They come through Castrol and make their way up towards the Motorcraft Hill again. And as Neil has mentioned, with Lowe's car, we're going to take the start for you off race cam inside Dick Johnson's car. Look for the jostling.
Dick, one of the casualties in this.
Dick's got the sideways street, but there goes Fury.
Ben Seaton.
And
Williamson survived. Rogers survived. There goes Colin Bond. He's okay. So's Jim Keogh. I can't see Johnny Harvey.
Look how far back Jim Richards is.
And Dick Johnson pulls out of the race. Well, that's what triggered off the happening in the first lap. John Harvey back on the racetrack, but he's been via the pits. Meanwhile, Robbie Francevic, there's Graham Crosby's car. They're working on that to try and pull the guard back off the tyre. So drama in the first corner of this round 3. We have quite a race going because Neil Lowe is right behind Francevic, and George Fury sitting there ready to pounce as well.
Graham Crosby, sponsored by Systime, which is a software pack for parts dealers. They should be able to get him out there again pretty quick.
I would think he'd hope so. Okay.
Look at Neil Lowe here having a go at the back of Robbie Francevic. Two of them have been opponents for a long time in New Zealand touring car racing, and of course George Fury in third position in this extremely powerful Nissan, although I suspect the boost just down a bit on this car. And there's McLeod in fourth place at the moment in car number 4, and then I think it might be Peter Williamson. Here's a replay of the incident again at turn 1, lap 1. And you can't quite see what's happened there because we're looking at the rear of the field, but you can see the aftermath. Seaton gone to the right.
Johnson in the middle.
No, that was John Harvey who spun. Johnson in the middle. Jim Richards tangled up in there as well. Graham Crosby went into the back, I think, of John Harvey.
And coming down into the top corner, and yes, it's Neil Lowe who's gone through to take over the lead from Robbie Francevic. Just back behind them, George Fury, of course, has been passed now by McLeod. Or is that Crosby, rather, who's made his way out of the pit area and caught up in between them?
Yes, Crosby's gone back out, but is down at least 1 lap, possibly 2. But he now splits the Francevic Volvo and the Fury Nissan, and behind them is the McLeod Commodore.
Just about time to pause for breath, I think. Goodness gracious me, what a hectic first few laps here in this round of the Touring Car Championship. 05 Neil Lowe is in front at this stage of the race, just ahead of Robbie Francevic in the Volvo car number 10, and third place at this stage being held down by car number 30, and of course that is George Fury. They're the top 3 after those very eventful opening laps in the third round of the Touring Car Championship here at Sandown this afternoon. Goodness me, who is going to survive to race end?
Well,
that bloke won't if he stays there.
Well, 05, Peter Brock's in Europe. Neil Lowe is here, and he is leading round 3 of the Touring Car title. The Castrol Challenge, round 3 of the National Touring Car Championship, continues at Sandown as George Fury gets the little Nissan Skyline basically up on 2 wheels. That doesn't do them the best, George. However, across the line as they come down the front straight, it's still Neil Lowe from New Zealand in the Mobile 05 car, stretching it out from Robbie Francevic, George Fury. They're then followed by Peter McLeod in car number 4, and settled in between all those cars is Graham Crosby in car number 2.
Then we've got Gary Rogers, followed by Colin Bond, Peter Williamson, the Bill O'Brien Murray Carter Nissan, and then Jim Richards, the reigning champion.
4 laps down, 17 to run.
The information that we have regarding Graham Crosby is that he has been penalised a minute for jumping the start. So he got involved in that skirmish just outside the first corner. He's been into the pits, effected repairs to the number 2 Commodore, and that is not the position he's running on the road at the moment in 3rd or 4th place.
Practically 2 laps down then.
Yep.
Well, the main protagonists in the incident appear to have been Seaton, Johnson, Harvey, Crosby and Longhurst. Or certainly whether or not they caused it, it's irrelevant. They were certainly involved in it and they came out the worse for wear.
Well, certainly Harvey, Johnson, Seaton suffered the most out of those, and to a lesser extent Crosby, Longhurst and Richards.
There's Crosby going through in car number 2. George Fury was very, very close, a lap or so back to Robbie Francevic. But of course that jump on 2 wheels over the curb didn't do the Nissan too much good. It dropped him back probably about 20 or 30 metres. He's had to catch it all up, and he's done it all in 1 lap. So there's Neil Lowe, quiet-spoken Kiwi. I tell you what, Kiwi seem to be doing quite well in our touring car ranks. Make no mistake about it.
We've got 2 Kiwis and a Hungarian leading at the moment. Where are the Aussies?
He's an Albury farmer. 05, Neil Lowe. Would love nothing better than to give Commodore a victory here in front of a very partisan crowd at Sandown this afternoon. Every time Neil stretches the 05 past here, the flags go up. They love to see the GM product leading the Valvoline Volvo and the Peter Jackson Nissan. Whether he can keep this pace up, we'll wait and see. He's been thrown in the 05 car, of course, because Peter Brock is away competing at Hockenheim in the 3rd round of the European Championship to be held a little later today. He's doing a good job of it. Neil Lowe.
Top trio lead Peter McLeod by a fair space, and then from McLeod back to the next division, headed by car 34 Gary Rogers. It's almost the length of the main straight.
One car that is decidedly off song is the BMW 635 of national champion Jim Richards. He's been dropping back through the pack just a little. However, as they come down through the infield loop, Neil Lowe, 05.
In the 2.5 litre car class, we have Colin Bond leading from Peter Williamson. And Bond has now gone past Gary Rogers in the 635 BMW, so that's a mighty drive from him in the 2.5 litre V6 Alpha. So nothing's working according to the script at the moment, and certainly not for poor old Jim Richards, the reigning champion. It's a brand new car this weekend. They're running the new package of components on that car, and we can see that in the background Jim Richards is falling away from the field with big problems with that car. But look at George Fury here working at the wheel of the turbo Nissan.
Tell you what, after that last jump up on the curb, you couldn't really say the Nissan was brittle. It's taken a bit of throwing around by George as he tries to stay in touch with Robbie Francevic.
To use one of yours, Mike, had he jumped any higher, the Nissan would have been missing.
They come down the front straight. There's Fury. A little closer this time to Robbie Francevic, but Neil Lowe holding a comfortable margin at this stage of the race. About 3 car lengths over Robbie Francevic, then 3 back to George Fury. Then probably 150 metres back to Peter McLeod in the number 4 car.
The Volvo dealer team, a new big budget assault on the Australian Touring Car Championship, New Zealand Touring Car Racing and our major endurance events later this year. Backing also from Valvoline, and this bunch again starting to tighten up. Francevic now gets into a position where he can do something about the V8 Commodore.
He's about to do it.
The Volvo with about 340 odd brake horsepower, the Commodore with about 400. And the Commodore has the legs at the end of the back straight just to hang on. Francevic very strong under brakes. This will possibly be one of the last times that we see Robbie in this car, because there's a new right-hand drive Volvo on its way from Sweden at the moment as a part of this new works entry. And this car will go into the hands of Tasmanian ace John Bowe as Neil Lowe locks up the front right into the hairpin.
Going to lock bumpers with Robbie Francovic in a minute. They get much closer.
Well, the good news for Lowe is that that guard that was rubbing on the rear tyre is no longer causing a problem.
That's because half the tyres worn off.
Throwing the car around, a few turns back there. Francovic finds Fury very close to him as they come through this part of the course. Look down towards Dunlop. Nice pace being set by Neil Lowe. He'll be able to dictate things quite effectively from that position in the field. He's got enough horsepower for both straights to accommodate the Volvo at this stage, so tyres could hold the key to this. The third round of the Touring Car Championship, the Castrol Challenge from Sandown.
They've changed the front spring rates in the Commodore this weekend in both the car number 3 and 05 cars, and they claim that it's certainly making the car handle a lot better at this circuit. The crowd again roaring as Neil Lowe goes by, followed by Francovic and then Fury.
One-third race distance gone, 14 laps remaining.
They were also experimenting with a couple of engine changes in this car, or at least changes to the engine, which they claim will give them something like an extra 10-odd horsepower. The moves that they were making, they decided to retract and not use this weekend for reliability reasons. But the news is that the Commodore could be even quicker in the near future.
Here's Robbie Francovic making his run on the outside of Neil Lowe. Bumper to bumper, door handle to door handle.
Two Aucklanders alongside one another, and it's the 05 Commodore that has the legs, quite surprisingly.
Francovic will come in under brakes on Neil Lowe, and Fury drops in for the inside run as well. And Francovic goes through. Lowe sends it sideways, goes out. The big cheer coming up from the crowd here because Lowe keeps the pedal down and he's going to come out, still running, in about fourth spot.
Yep, fourth spot. McLeod goes past to take up third placing. Well, just maybe a slight touch there between Fury and Neil Lowe. Sent Neil into a spin. But he's coming back very aggressively.
Talk about exciting motor racing. Lowe tried to hang on to it all the way. He finally surrendered and went right round in a left-hand loop. Let's take a look at the replay of this incident along the back straight when George Fury tried to go underneath Neil Lowe. It looks like we might have a problem with that. We'll come back to it as we look at George Fury in car number 30. So Fury has come off here with a second place, inheriting that. Robbie Francovic, the leader. Peter McLeod from Wollongong on the south coast of New South Wales has gone up into third place, and that's good news for him on the unsponsored Commodore. They're coming out of Castrol GTX onto the main straight. Gary said before, a little more than third race distance, and by gee, we have had nothing but action in this race so far. Francovic the leader in car number 10, and the crowd is on its feet as their Kiwi man Robbie Francovic goes through in car number 10. And it's still George Fury in second, and the cheer goes up again for Neil Lowe, who's given them something to cheer about with his act at the end of the back straight, and he's now locked in battle with Peter McLeod.
Well, what a race. Robbie Francovic. And of course, right behind him is George Fury. They head up the back straight here at Castrol. Let's have a look at what happened. Could have been a touch between those two cars, but Robbie Francovic goes through, and he still continues to lead the Castrol Challenge. Second place is held by George Fury, and Neil Lowe, he's got it all to do.
11 laps, just over, remaining in this round of the Touring Car Championship. So we're coming up on half distance as car number 30, George Fury, assumes command in round 3 of the Australian Touring Car Championship and now has the lead over car 10, Robbie Francevic's Volvo. Neil Lowe in the 05 Commodore has regained third place ahead of Peter McLeod in car number 4.
Then we've got Colin Bond, followed by Peter Williamson, then Murray Carter, Gary Rogers and Tony Longhurst in 9th position.
Well, the little ordinary farmer, George Fury, the man who has stolen 3 pole positions for 3 rounds of the Touring Car Championship, now takes over the lead. A simple move, is going up the back straight. He's gone past Robbie Francevic. This is the car yesterday that scored pole position with a 150.7 to the Volvo's 151.8.
It's also remembered that Francevic is the leader of the Australian Touring Car Championship at the moment, and although George Fury has put in some tremendous performances, he didn't score, of course, in that first round at Amaroo Park. He picked up points at the second round in Tasmania, so there's quite some deficit. The fellow that's actually in second place is Tony Longhurst. He's driving the Class A BMW 325. He's back in 9th place at the moment. So Fury needs all of these points. The way he's working at the moment, it's going to happen.
The leader, George Fury, opening up quite a break now. In fact, the top part of the field's becoming a little bit spread out in behind the leading division. We've got Colin Bond in the 2.5 litre Alpha, Peter Williamson in the car 77. There's Willow, the Toyota Supra. He'd be in 6th position on the racetrack at the present time, just behind Colin Bond and ahead of Murray Carter in his Everlast Nissan Skyline. He's circulating pretty comfortably, pretty steadily, although fairly well back in the field, but he did manage to miss that first lap mishap. Willow's had a lot of trouble with the Supra the last several minutes, just cannot get the car to run to his satisfaction, although in the final race from Amaroo Park last weekend, he seemed to have it up and running somewhere near its best, and it's performing creditably here today, keeping in mind how it's overpowered by the front-running division, the turbocharged cars and the big V8s.
2.2 seconds separating Fury and Francevic as we look at Peter Williamson.
A lot of potential, this car, and he's got a new electronic fuel injection system coming for the car, which will be ready, he tells me, for the 4th round of the Touring Car Championship at Adelaide International Raceway 2 weeks from today. He's also got a new radiator system to bring down the temperature. It runs too hot, the car, but it'll be good to see it back running somewhere near its top in Adelaide. Let's hope that's the case.
10.7 seconds between Robbie Francevic and Neil Lowe to give you some idea of how the top 3 are going. And here's Colin Bond. He is in 5th place outright. He is leading the 2.5 litre division in the Ignis Alpha. It's a new car, had problems with the vehicle at the first round at Amaroo. They didn't go to the second round at Symmons Plains, but she flew last weekend at Amaroo Park, and he's doing a good job at the moment, although he's quite some way behind Peter McLeod in 4th place in car number 4.
Love the way he's hanging those wheels out over the side.
Yes, 75, that's a good showing. 5th spot for Colin Bond.
The reason they're using number 75 is later in the year Alpha will be releasing a vehicle called an Alpha 75 for particularly the Australian market and of course in racing for the James Hardy 1000 and other endurance events, and that's a car that Colin Bond hopes, and certainly Enrico Zannarini, the team manager of the Alpha outfit, will put them into outright contention. Certainly on paper its configuration looks extremely good. Half race distance, as we pointed out before. In fact, we've just gone a little bit further than that, and Colin Bond looking to put in his best result so far in this championship that has given him very little so far.
It's interesting how a mishap like the first corner one that we experienced can of course throw out a race. Jim Richards has retired, Gary Rogers has stopped, and the BMWs, of course, that's been very favourable to the Bavarian 635s in the past, but they're both out of contention at this stage. Race still being led, of course, by George Fury, and we've been following Colin Bond, we mentioned, is running 5th on the road.
Well, as you've mentioned in your coverage of the European Touring Car Championship, Mike, the BMWs are certainly on form in Europe, and it's been the reverse role. They had a bad year in Europe last year and a great year in Australia, and this year it seems to be the other way around. But Frank Gardner was saying yesterday that it was just hassles with the car. They should sort them out, but this little car this weekend doesn't appear to have any vices at all, and it's flying.
Fifth place on the racetrack, pursued by Peter Williamson, running sixth there, back midfield down the straight. And the car behind that, the light blue car, the Everlast entry car 34, is the private entry of Murray Carter, Nissan Skyline.
Seventh position at the moment. And this car developed really from around about July or August last year. Murray was hoping to have the vehicle ready for the James Hardy 1000. That didn't happen. And he decided to wait until the full homologation package came through, and in conjunction with the Nissan Works team has been working on this vehicle, and it's come up very well, backing from Everlast, and it seems to be running very strongly. They have had very few problems so far this weekend, and if he can pull off a seventh placing in his first outing, I'm sure he'll be very happy.
Yeah, so he's got Jim Keogh and
Tony Longhurst,
not all that far astern of him. They've got time left to make up the ground too, because there are 9.5 laps remaining in the race.
Well, certainly with the number of vehicles that have dropped out of this event, it also stands to the reason that somebody like Graham Crosby, or certainly John Harvey, although they won't pick up major points, with the scoring system that is used, will pick up some points. And of course, that's the important thing. You can get to the end of a 10-round championship like this and find you're 2 or 3 points shy of the mark. And the points are allocated right down to 20th position. So people like Crosby and Harvey and so forth at the moment are all trying to notch up those valuable points. The next round of the championship moves on to Adelaide International Raceway, and that is also likely to be a very entertaining encounter as Murray Carter works at the wheel here of the Everlast Nissan Skyline in this part of the course, which is very difficult, hard on cars, hard on the driver, physically demanding. And here's the leader, George Fury, car 30, end of the back straight, the hairpin. No, it's not, it's Glenn Seaton. In fact, let's recap the top three as the Castrol scoreboard comes up, and it's George Fury leading from Robbie Francevic, and in third place, 05, Neil Lowe.
Back at Sandown with 7.5 laps remaining in round 3 of the Australian Touring Car Championship. There's the man from the gong, Peter McLeod, holding down 4th place in the race at the present time behind George Fury, Robbie Francevic and Neil Lowe. And the all-white Commodore.
We haven't seen Peter McLeod for a spell. This is a beautifully turned out car. He campaigned, of course, the Mazda in the Touring Car Championship a couple of years ago in the Group C configuration. Went to sports sedans last year, changed his big banger or his whistler over to run the sports sedans, and now he's back in Group A again.
Very little sign writing on the car, but what is there was put there by Neelank Proprietary Limited, a sign writing company. The car recently rebuilt. Peter McLeod, of course, unsponsored at all, right up until the eve of this third round of the Touring Car Championship, until Neelank came to the rescue with some aid that's going to help him continue his campaign, at least in the immediate future.
Peter, of course, is a former Australian endurance champion in that Mazda RX-7 of his. He hasn't been involved in motor racing for that many years, and in the years that he has been involved, he has performed extremely well. A hard charger, a good campaigner, and is very good in the long-distance endurance-type races. And there's Peter Williamson out of the car in car 77. So, unfortunately, 86 is not going Willow's way at all.
And 77's not going anywhere.
I've got the stopwatch at the moment on George Fury to get some idea of the sort of lap time that he's churning out as we look here at Peter McLeod from New South Wales. The bad news is, I guess, to speak without pulling punches, Peter said yesterday that unfortunately if he can't find any sponsorship, he may have to curtail his racing activities. That'd be a shame.
The sad fact is, though, that, you know, we hear it all the time. We always try to give as many of the drivers, you know, a good run and a good plug for their sponsors, but it's a fact of life. You've got to be there and you've got to run consistently to get the coverage. And I know it's sort of the old horse chasing its tail trick. However, I hope he comes up with a sponsor. Good luck to him. But Peter, keep in mind, you're not the only one. So George Fury continues to lead, car number 30, the Peter Jackson Nissan.
That time through, I had Fury at a 152.3, and that's just, well, let me see, that's very, very close to his qualifying. In fact, I'll double check that because that may even be a new lap record.
5 laps remaining as Neil checks that time. Fury, Francevic.
The lap record, sorry to break in there, Wilco, is 153.6, and that's held by Dick Johnson. So, and I'm sure it was even lower than that in the earlier stages because Fury was flying in those opening 10 laps.
Well, George Fury giving the Peter Jackson Nissan Racing team every chance of success here today during the third round of the touring car title. Pole on 3 occasions, led at Amaroo, led at Symmons Plains, and leading today at Sandown. What a great little car it is.
And the gap between he and Francevic is now less than a second, so the race is a long way from over.
Slower car between the pair, though, on the track at the moment as they go down the Dandenong Road side of the course and through the S's. That won't help Francevic any.
Where Francevic gains is down through the infield section of the racetrack with all the tight turns because the Nissan, they're still playing around with the handling. They're far from happy with the car at the moment.
Francevic's got by Gerald Kay, that slower vehicle, as I mentioned, and now sets out again in pursuit of George Fury.
The thing that I've noticed particularly about the Nissan, though, this weekend, Mike, is that whereas at Amaroo and Symmons Plains the car was sliding a lot, that seems to have been cured.
But he is incredibly fast in a straight line, and that's the problem as far as Robbie Francevic is concerned, because down the straight, no one is running quicker than George Fury. It pulls probably 20 or 30 metres every time down the straight. Gerald Kay still continuing back behind them in the Commodore.
4 laps remaining.
Driving in the Jag Parts Commodore.
The other thing that I learned yesterday about this car in the lead at the moment is that for the first time this year they're experimenting with a new Dunlop radial racing tyre. As yet unavailable to most competitors, and the Nissan team have been experimenting. They've been trying all sorts of different combinations, so perhaps that's helping in some way, shape or form.
So George Fury, car number 30, up the Motorcraft back straight, and you'll notice that the gap that he held over Robbie Francevic will now dissipate as they come onto the loop area, section of tight corners. Francevic will close up all the way through here, but George knows he has the edge on both straights. So little George Fury in car number 30, the Peter Jackson Nissan, continues to lead round 3 from the Kiwi Robbie Francevic and Neil Lowe. Laps running out in round 3 of the Australian Touring Car Championship from Sandown in Melbourne. And George Fury is still the race leader, being stalked though by Kiwi Robbie Francevic in car number 10, the Valvoline Volvo. At this stage though, George seems in command of the situation. Neil Lowe still running in 3rd place. He's not going to be challenged for that. There's Francevic. The gap still about the same as they come across the line, with about 2 laps remaining. And the gap is about 100 or so metres back to Robbie Francevic.
In terms of time, Mike, it's just over a second, and there's a further 22 seconds between our second place man, Robbie Francevic, and Neil Lowe. This is Tony Longhurst in car 25, second place in the series at the moment with a total of 39 points, arriving at that from a great drive at Damaroo Park and also at Symmons Plains. It was a 3rd at Damaroo, a 7th at Symmons Plains, and the little 325 car, which is what's called a Class A car, gets more points than the bigger cars, is looking pretty good. This should be the leader, George Fury, car 30.
Well, not only Tony Longhurst in the 325 doing well in the Australian Touring Car Championship, but of course BMW doing extremely well with the 325 model in the European title. Lee Voigt, of course, placed in 4th at the opening round at Monza and came back for a 6th outright at the 2nd round at Donington in England last weekend. So the 325s, and nobody turns out a BMW better, I believe, better presented car probably in the world than Frank Gardner. And I take into consideration even the Schnitzer team in Europe. Oops, George getting a little sideways, feeling the pressure just a little bit. He's throwing it around now. Laps are running out. Robbie still close through this section of the track. But George, I think, will be delighted to give Freddie Gibson, Howard Marsden and all the boys at Nissan a win here at Sandown today. Hometown crowd. They've been barracking George since the race started. He's heading down past the pit area now.
3 pole positions for the Peter Jackson Nissan team so far this year. And today could be their first win, and I would suggest the first of many, the way things are shaping up. And young Glenn Seaton has debuted the second of the 2 cars in this team this weekend, and Gary Scott from Queensland will also have a run in the car. The Nissan team is going to be very strong. We saw some smoke before from the Gerald K Commodore. That's been doing that for some time.
Gerald's still hanging in there.
Yep, doesn't appear to be terminal.
Coming out of Castrol and heading up the back straight, Motorcraft. And George Fury, one of motor racing's most likeable people. Very friendly little fella. He's been around racing for many years. A rally star. Boy, hasn't he made the change over to touring cars a strong one.
He gave Nissan an endurance championship as far as manufacturers go a couple of years ago, and he's a multiple Australian rally champion. Sensitivity for a motor car is brilliant, and the gap at the moment between he and Francevic is 2.21 seconds. And unless he makes a big blue with now a lap and a half remaining, it's all over bar the shouting.
They come once again through the loop, heading on their way to Dunlop, car number 30, the Peter Jackson Nissan Skyline, driven by George Fury. There's Francevic. He stalked George throughout this race, thought that he would have perhaps a much better shot at winning here at Sandown today, but he'll be comfortable with 2nd points today, retained the lead outright in the touring car title. We're coming down past towards the pit area now, into the right-hander. And I think the champagne corks will be popping in the Peter Jackson Nissan tent shortly. Coming out of the last corner onto the long front, finishing straight at Sandown, and George Fury will come across the line and take it. Checkered flag for little George. He wins his first Touring Car Championship race of the season. 2nd spot will go to Robbie Francevic, and 3rd place will go to Neil Lowe in the Holden Commodore for the mobile team, car number 05.
Well, what a splendid performance from George Fury. As I said before, 3 pole positions so far this year, and this the first win. And that will make Howard Marsden and Fred Gibson and the entire team extremely pleased indeed. Also a great performance from Robbie Francevic in car number 10. And of course the aim of the game for him now is just consistency. He's already got a very handy points gap And a quick calculation in the brain here would tell me that Robbie Francevic would go on to about 82 points in the championship, continuing to extend that lead. And that's a fine performance from the Volvo guy. Other great performance, of course, was Neil Lowe. That was sensational stuff in the opening laps for him. And what a shame he went round at the end of the hairpin down here at the back straight, because we may well have looked at Neil Lowe's first victory in the Holden Dealer Team Car 05.
Well, George Fury wins round number 3. We hope you've enjoyed our telecast from Sandown. Make sure you join us a fortnight from today from round 4 from Adelaide International Raceway. Touring car on the 7 network.
George Fury, you've already had time to change the hat.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be able to thank our team this way by winning, and thank Peter Jackson too. So I'm wrapped.
You might have to remove that hat so Robin can get the victory wreath. No, it fits over the top. George, fantastic race. You led the first round of the Touring Car Championship. You led the second round. You've had the pole position the 3 times and finally got the checkered flag. Must be a fantastic feeling.
Well, it is. We were hoping that we'd win, and all thanks to everybody that worked on the car. And as I said before, Peter Jackson for supporting us. Robbie pushed us all the way, and you know, I wasn't just sort of tootling along. I was pushing all the way to keep in front of him. So I had fun anyway.
What was your view of the first corner incident?
I didn't see much of that.
You were lucky.
I had a slipping clutch off the line, and that's why I didn't get away very cleanly. And then I guess I was in the right spot at the right time. I didn't get involved.
Your passing manoeuvre on Neil Lowe certainly sent him into a spin.
Well, yeah, well, he sort of seemed to change lanes very quickly, and I wasn't prepared for that.
George, fantastic effort, and the potential of this car, better to come?
Oh, much better. We'll get a lot better than what it is, so look out.
Okay, George Fury, and congratulations from John Henderson from Castrol for winning the Castrol Challenge today.
Tremendous effort.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's talk to Robbie Francevic. Robbie, really was a sensational effort on Robbie Francevic's part, because he nominated, obviously, with George on pole, that he was going to be the tough man to beat, and that certainly proved the way.
It certainly did, and he did a fine job. You know, like, I just kept the pressure on the whole race, and he just didn't put a foot wrong.
Robbie, I asked George, he didn't see too much of it, but that first corner incident was lucky. It didn't take a lot more people out.
Well, like, I remember that last year, and when Colin went through and I was on the outside and I backed off and let him go and take them all, and I was just so pleased that I was out front today.
Fantastic effort, 2 wins in a second. There's only one better you can go than that, but there's still plenty of rounds of the Touring Car Championship to come.
Oh yes, and with the new team I'm sure we're going to get a lot more out of our little Gigi.
And of course another car on the way.
I think we better get it here quickly. This old girl's ready for retirement.
Robbie Francevic, second in today's Castrol Challenge, round 3 of the Touring Car Championship. Third place was taken by Neil Lowe, driving the 05 Commodore, with Peter Brock battling away in Europe. Fantastic effort, Neil.
Thank you very much. I think we've now proved that a V8 can actually foot it with a turbo for a short time anyway.
Well, you know, the Mobile dealer team really is holding a very strong hand. Obviously, you've got a lot to contend with, keeping these turbos in line, but I'm talking in terms of driver talent.
Well, that's a bit leading. I think the 2 in Europe are brilliant. There's one more good one here, and then there's myself. I consider myself as a second for an endurance, but I really enjoy getting out there for a sprint anyway.
The passing manoeuvre, George Fury, on yourself, it cost you valuable time, didn't it?
Yes, it did. It was just one of those racing things. It happens. I let Robbie through. Obviously, I was in the wrong place there. I'd made a mistake in a corner earlier, and I certainly didn't expect Nissan to be that close, but he was, and around I went.